So welcome everyone. We start from saying our names around. I'm Katarina.
I'm Laura.
Kelly.
Carl.
Shani.
Tony.
Emma. Romy.
Adrian. Chris.
Seppi.
Terry.
Fran.
Well, what we talk about here, for want of a better label or a better name, we call it Advaita or non-duality. But it's based on what all the ancient texts and scripts and religions have formed for. Advaita, translated, means non-duality. And we try and describe non-duality by saying it's one without a second, not two. So when I say here I can't teach you anything and I can't tell you anything, all we do is point toward and ask you to look to where we're pointing to see for yourself. Because if you understand what we're talking about, nobody can ever teach you anything, nobody can ever tell you anything, because it's all the one. How can anybody teach you something if you are already that one? In Hinduism they call it Advaita, which translates as Sat Chit Ananda, Nama Rupa. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, Ananda is loving to be, or the bliss of being, and the Nama Rupa are Maya, they're illusion. The name and form is the body-mind, which are illusion. Now taking that Sat Chit Ananda, another way of putting that is existence, consciousness, and loving to be. Anyone who is not existing right now? No, you're all existing. Anyone who is not conscious right now, or unaware. You're not unaware, so you must be aware. You're not unconscious, so you must be conscious. Anyone who's not happy to be. Well, none of you would be dead for quids, would you? We wouldn't be here. So you must recognise from that, you can only already be that. You are that existence, consciousness, bliss. But the Nama Rupa, the name and form we put ourselves, the body, mind, the Maya or the illusion, are an appearance only. They're only seemingly so. So you are already that one without a second. So what's the problem? The problem is we've taken on the idea we are this person. What's person? A word or a label. And where does that word come from? Doesn't it come from, I think it was Latin a couple of thousand years ago, persona, the mask. Meaning we've got this mask or conceptual image made up. We believe ourselves to be this persona. And we've encapsulated in that concept or that mask, and we've tied ourselves in a conceptual image. We've got this conceptual image that I am this person, I am Bob, the Australian, or whatever it is. But it's made up of words. And when you look at that, investigate that, and realise, wait till these people sit down. Well, got this conceptual image of ourselves made up of words. And when you understand, the word is never the thing. It's only a label we put on things. Take the word water. Can you drink the word? Can you swim in the word? Or wash in it or drown in it? You can't, not with the word. Does the word fire burn your mouth if you speak it? It doesn't. Can you cook with the word? You can't. Can you heat yourself with the word? You can't. So maybe when you investigate this persona, this mask, this group of words, and see maybe you're not what you believe yourself to be, or taking a belief that you believe yourself to be. And that's been the problem, because this words we've got about ourselves has brought about the sense of separation. And the idea we're separate and apart. We are individuals. We are this person. But you're not that at all. You are the Sat Chit Ananda. You are the totality. You are already the absolute. The absolute which vibrates into different patterns, shapes and forms, which is all this manifestation. So that's where they come to the non-duality. There is absolutely no duality in non-duality. It's all one without a second, without another. And the only thing that discriminates is with the words. Now, you weren't born with any words. Every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been picked up along the way. And you're probably learning new words to this day. I am, but I'm old now and I'm forgetting a lot of words also. But a word or labels are not the thing. It doesn't really matter. And you know that innately, because if you went to Myers or David Jones or one of those and came out with a dress or a shirt or whatever you were buying with just the label, you wouldn't be too happy. So you see, the label is not the thing. So we've taken on this belief we are this persona, the mask, the conceptual image. And that's brought about with it the sense of separation and the belief that we are these individuals, persons. But you've got to understand the description can never be the described. And what we're describing now is not the description of it. It's only bound into labels. So there's necessity to look and see for yourself and investigate. Look beyond the concepts, look beyond the words, and recognise your true nature. Another way of putting that Sat Chit Ananda, I've put it two ways already. Another way is being, knowing, and loving to be. Being is existing, knowing is the consciousness, and loving to be is the Ananda or the bliss. Now, can you negate your beingness? You can't say, I am not. So you must be that being. And there's a knowing there, basic knowing that you are, before you put the labels on I know. And you're loving to be. So again, the point out, you are already that. We're so steeped in the belief that we're separate entities, individuals, parents, school, society, and everybody around us have told us that and reinforced it, and we've never investigated. But down through the ages, there have been people that have investigated it and grasped it and understood it. And they're the ones that the big religions have formed around. And they've been in the little villages or wherever they came into existence and appeared and lived, they were only able to pass it on to a few. There were only a few that were interested in listening to it. And so not many came to believe it. And it's been believed from that on that it's very hard to come by this. There's only a few that can get it. Not really everybody. It's everybody's right, and everybody is already that. Always have been and always will be. And those ones that have passed it on, they've been set up as saints, sages, saviours and seers. And what have we done? We've worshipped the messenger and missed out on the message. It's the message or the pointing that is the important thing. We're looking at. And what we do, that's all we do is point. Now what's the point when you can go up out in the way away from here a bit, and you might see a signpost up Burke Road and Whitehorse Road this way. Just a bit of wood with an arrow pointing to where it. And so you need to follow the pointer. The pointer's not there, but it gives you a direction of where to go. And when you follow that direction, you'll come to the Burke Road and Whitehorse Road and you'll know where it is. So the description also, what I'm describing right now, is not described. It can never be. So that's why I can't tell you anything. And I can't teach you anything. I can only point. And if in the pointing something resonates, and I mean by there's a recognition of it, it hits you in the heart or the core of your being, not the physical heart. When we talk about the heart, it's the core of your being. That's the heart is the core of anything, or the centre or the symbol of the spirit. And when it hits that essence within you, there's a recognition or a knowing of it innately. You feel something in you. It's more than just a conceptual idea, or this is a good or something like that. And you know what heart to heart is. That's what I say. There is an art to listening. If you're listening head to head, you've got your concept of what I am and what I'm saying and all the rest, and you've got your concepts and your own beliefs. And it'll be head to head, and all that we're doing is clashing. But then we say, listen from the heart. And again, people think you've got to listen from the physical heart or not. It's the core of your being. And you know what heart to heart is already. So hasn't you, when you've been in sync with somebody, synchronization with somebody, and you heard what they were saying, it might have been a sad story, and made you happy, and you'll tell somebody else, my heart went out to them. Why would you say that? If you didn't know it was something more than your reasoning and your thinking. It was heartfelt. And when it's heartfelt, that is the recognition of your true nature. So another way I put it many different ways. I'm not speaking to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm not speaking to that body-mind identity you might think you are. I'm speaking to that I am. The sense of presence, which translates through the mind as the thought I am. Each one of us says I am. And it's not the person, we believe it's the person until you question it, but it's that sense of presence which translates or expresses through the mind as the thought I am, the knowing that you are. And you can't negate that knowing that you are. And if you look at it this way, like if you believe in a thing called God, you'll call God the Supreme Being. And you call yourself a human being. What happens if you take that label Supreme off and take the label human off and try and separate the beingness in this room without a label? And you realise it's the one being expressing, patterning, shaping and forming and appearing as everything. And can you negate that beingness? Can anyone say, I am not? If you could say, I am not, very knowing that you can say that, there's something there that enables you to say that. So you're not the not being, you are the beingness that it's expressing through. And the great mantra they talk about, the Maha mantra, the great mantra is, I am that. And everybody already knows that innately. And everything is that because it's one without a second. You'll say, that's the chair, that's the carpet, that's the tree, that's the flower, that's Bill, that's so-and-so, that's you, that's me. Everything is already that. And what's differentiated it? The label, or the word we put on it, in which we pointed out before, the word's not the thing. And it tells you that in the Bible also. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, the Word was God. That's all that God is. It's a word, a label. All things were made by Him, by the Word. And there was nothing made that was not made. And isn't that true? We label everything. That's a tree, that's the flower, that's the sky, that's the space. We've labelled everything. And the Word's not the real. So it's the one essence, always has and always will be, that's patterning, shaping, forming and expressing as everything. And you are that. I am that. It's everything is there. How did it all come about? Well, we'll go back where it says in the beginning. When did you begin? You'll say, I was born. But have a look at that. Can anyone actually remember your birth? Actually remember your birth? And you realise you can't remember your birth because you didn't have any words. You couldn't express it or explain it when you were born. So there it says, when that statement in the Bible comes through, in the beginning, there was no beginning until the words came upon it. And you see that again in Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, or paradise. And they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In other words, they learnt words, not just good and evil, but that means they learnt words. And as soon as they learnt words, they were tossed out of paradise because they put on all these beliefs and put on the idea that they were separate entities and individuals and lost sight of their true nature. So it's there in all the scriptures. You'll see it there if you understand them and can read them, instead of the way the crap they put on them now and lost sight of what they really are. So, are you this body-mind? Would you believe? Are you this person? Because they tell you, again, that the nama rupa, nama is the name of the which you call the body, and the rupa is the form, the body-mind entity. Are you this body? Innately you know you're not the body. Already you know it, but you don't understand it in true form because you say my body. Don't you say my house, my coat, my car, and you know damn well you're not the house, the car or the coat or anything else. Maybe you're not the body either. And are you the mind? Again you say my mind, just the same as you say my coat, my car, my house. And maybe you're not the mind, but with the mind you say myself. Now if you read any of the text or any of the scriptures, what will they tell you? The self is the Atman. Atman is another name for self. And they say there's only one Atman. There's not a personal self. There never was a personal self and never will be a personal self. The person is not the thing. So you are already that self. Everything is pointing to that, and we've not taken any notice of it because we weren't told about it initially, and we lost sight of it. We focused into the belief and lived in the belief from there on, and that's where all your problems come about from. But look at that word belief. Look up your dictionary and see what the definition of belief is. And you'll see it's an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reasons. You've taken on this body-mind identity without reasoning it out, without questioning it. Acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. So when you put your beliefs to that test, the false cannot stand up to investigation. And the false, when they live through the investigation, the false beliefs will fall apart. And what are you left with? You're left with that other great scriptural saying, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. If you see through your beliefs, you must be with the truth, and you're free of your beliefs. But you've got to question and recognise. Going back to are you this body? You know you're not the body because you say my body. And what's this body made up of? You'll see this body's made up of elements. Made of air, earth, fire, water and space. Just the same as the elements around you. Well, if you think you're separate yourself from those elements. Take the air out of your body, stop breathing. See how long you'd last without that air. You wouldn't last that long, so you're not separate from the air. Take the water out of your body. Your body is 80% water. Take the water out of your body. See how long you'd last without that. You wouldn't last that long, so you're not separate from the water. Take the fire, the body temperature. You soon get hypothermia and die without that. So you can't separate yourself from that. Get off the earth, if you can. Live off the earth without it. You can't. Get out of space. Can you get out of space? You can't. So take the body temperature out of the fire. I've said that one I think, haven't I? I won't say it again. So you see, you're not separate from those elements. And all those elements can be broken down to subatomic particles into pure energy. So all this body is a vibrating pattern of energy. All the manifestation is a vibrating pattern of energy. That's why I don't use the term God here. You can get confused with that term because you all come from different backgrounds, different religions or traditions. Some of you might be atheists, some of you could be agnostic, some of you are Christians, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, or whatever. If I start talking about God, you'll relate it to what your traditional belief is, and so get confused and wouldn't understand and would miss out on what I'm saying. But I call it intelligence energy, and that's not it. That's just another label we put on it to try and express it or explain it. When I'm talking about intelligence, I'm not talking about your intellects, because each of us got different intellects. Some of you got better intellects than I'll ever have, some of you mightn't be so good. Talking about intelligence, I'm talking about the same intelligence that's functioning in this manifestation. The same intelligence that's rolling the earth around the sun, that's causing the seasons to come and go, drawing the tides to come in and out. And that same intelligence is breathing you right now. It's beating your heart. It's growing your hair in your fingernails. It's digesting your food. It's replacing cells in your body, all naturally, effortlessly and spontaneously. Hey. So intelligence is another way of expressing it, is an activity of knowing. Every one of us is knowing right now, and that knowing is not a static thing. It's an activity, it's something that's happening in the moment. So the activity of knowing is there. And any activity is a vibration or a movement of energy. It's not a static thing. So that's where I get the term intelligence energy, the activity of knowing. Isn't that happening with each and every one of you right now? I've pointed out here many ways that you are already that. You're still going to stay in the believed in entity and think you're going to become something. Because becoming is not being. Being is the actuality. Becoming implies a future time. And when you investigate that concept time, you'll see that's all the time is a mental concept. If you ask yourself what's wrong right now if I don't think about it, what can you say without a thought? Can you say it's good? Can you say it's bad? Can you say it's past or future? Or anything at all without a thought? You can't. So where's time without a thought? But you'll say I was in the past. I'll say, okay, try and go back and live yesterday, if you're in the past. But yesterday is past now. A minute ago was past. If you think you're in the past, go back and try and live it. You can't. You can only recall it, and any actuality you give in the past is what you're giving in this moment. So nobody can tell me what you thought 5 minutes ago now unless you recall it. It's already gone. You can bring it up again. The same with the future. You can anticipate and imagine the future, but you can't live a moment in the future. And the only actuality you're giving that is what you're giving it in this moment. If you're thinking what you're going to do when you leave here, well, you can't, or next week, or what you're going to have for lunch. So you see, when people tell you you've got to try and stay in the now, I'll say try and get out of it. Because it's always this actuality. It's not a time-bound thing, it's not a duration, it's spontaneous. When does now begin? We can say, well, not yesterday, tomorrow, I've got to try and grasp it right now. And even as you're saying that, you try and grasp it, it's already moved along. And you've got to grasp it again and again and again. So it's got no duration to it whatsoever. And that's all the time is duration. So it's all spontaneous, ever fresh and ever new. And that's one of the ways the Buddhists describe it. I'm not a Buddhist, I'm not a Christian, I'm not a Muslim, I'm not a Hindu, I'm not an atheist or an agnostic. I don't believe in any of those things. But I see the truth, I can recognise the truth in them. And I've taken the snippets of truth out that can be utilised, and there's a lot of other crap mixed up with the religions. But take the truth and you come to that statement again. Know the truth and the truth will set you free. You'll be free of the bondage of belief and all this crap we've taken on. It's very simple and very easy, but it's been complicated and made to seem hard. Because we start from behind the 8 ball. We start with the belief we are this separate entity, we are this individual, we are this person that's got to become whole or realised or liberated. But in the person is not the actuality. So I say start from the fact that you already are that, whether you realise it or know it not at this moment. If you keep investigating and knowing, you will recognise it and see that you are that, you've always have been it. But if you start from the fact that I'm this human, miserable, poor little human being, I've got to become something, you'll never get it. And you're all intelligent people. And you wouldn't be here if you haven't been on the path and looking at something. Why haven't you got it? Well, where have you been looking? You've been looking for the answer in the mind, in the next thought, in the next second, in the next meditation, the next book I read, the next teacher I go to, they'll give it to me. But mightn't it just dawn on you? You've been looking all this time in the mind for the answer and you haven't found it? Well, maybe the answer's not in the mind. It might just dawn you. Well, if the answer's not in the mind, what way is there out of the mind? You'll say every direction you look will always be in the mind. What way is there out of the mind? And you realise the only way out of the mind is full stop. Or as they say in America, period. Don't go there. And if you ask yourself that right now, what's wrong with right now if I don't think about it? You're not going there. What can you say about it? Can you say it's good? Can you say it's bad? Can you say it's past or future? Can you say it's happy or sad? You can't say anything. So thought has stopped, paused for a moment. But has the breathing stopped? It hasn't. Has the heart stopped beating? It hasn't. Has the hair and fingernails stopped growing? The food stopped being digested? The functioning and the livingness is going on, but thinking has stopped. So in that moment you might realise that you are prior to thought. Because that's what the thought appears in, and that's what the thought disappears. So you're prior to the thought, before the thought. So if you're before the thought, you must be that natural essence. The Buddhists give it to you in one sentence. They say it's non-conceptual, ever fresh, presence awareness. And they add on to just this, nothing else. You don't have to go any further, just this, nothing else. Ever present, fresh, that's right in this spontaneous moment. Presence awareness. Anyone who's not aware of being present right now, or that presence awareness is not right with you, negate it if you can. Again, pointing out that you are that. So, we go back to your birth. When did you begin? You'll say, I was born, you can't remember the birth. We'll go and have a look at that. When did you begin? If you believe there was a beginning. We'll go back as your father and your mother. Now, animatic life essence, that pattern shaped and formed, that thing you call your father, that body, mind, entity you call your father, enabled in that body, mind, through the essence, the breath, the prana, and the essence of the food you live in, enabled in that body, mind, a little microscopic particle called a sperm to form. You can't see it with your naked eye. And you might not realise it, you would when you look into it again, but you probably take it for granted. And that sperm was suffused with innate intelligence. It knew what to do. And the same in your mother, that animatic life essence that pattern shaped you, formed your mother, enabled in that pattern another little microscopic particle called an ovum or an egg to form. Now that ovum was suffused with innate intelligence. It knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. It wasn't floating around accidentally. And the sperm being suffused with intelligence knew what to do. It swam to the ovum, put it under a microscope, and you'll see it has not just a blob of goo that's there, it's got the capacity of swimming. It knew where to swim to and what to do. It penetrated the ovum. And when those two came together, the innate intelligence, which is the innate intelligence which is you today, doubled that cell, doubled it, and through the genes and everything else, the little embryo, the little fetus began to form. What were you doing about it then? What were you doing about it then? Did you say, I've got to grow a heart or a lung or breath or anything? You didn't. You couldn't say anything because you didn't have any words. But it knew what to do of itself. And it spontaneously doubled that cell and grew you from there to where it is today. It's the same essence or intelligence energy that was there then that is through you to it today. We've lost sight of it and we've taken ourselves to be this body mind. But then when you were 9 months, we came out of the room, you weren't born with any words. You didn't have any words then. And that's why I say you start from behind the 8 ball. And you didn't have any words till you were about 9, not 2.5, or somewhere around that age, 2.5. Some of you might have been younger, some a bit older, when the capacity of reasoning developed in you. But you were living for 2 years without the word. So you realise you can get along quite well without the word. You're getting along quite well then. You were seeing, you were hearing, you were tasting, touching, smelling. But no thinking was going on at all because you didn't have any words to discriminate it, to separate it. So we learnt words from then. Now the same thing with the mind. With the capacity of reasoning, you learnt words. And you learnt words from your parents. Your parents were fussing around you saying, well, you're little Bonnie, little Billy, you're a good little boy, or you're not so good, don't do this or do that. You learnt words when they're talking all the time. You learnt words like I and me. And the capacity of reasoning developed, and you start to reason. This little Johnny they're talking about, pointing to, this is I or me. That fits little Johnny. So I am little Johnny. And little Johnny looks out there, and he looks out there past it, beyond the word and things. He says, that's not little Johnny. That's not I. That's not me. So what happens then? When he looks beyond it and sees that's not I, not me, he feels separate from it. And with the sense of separation, what happens? Comes insecurity. When he knows that out there he hasn't learned what that is, he doesn't know what it is. He's fearful of it, he's scared of it, very insecure about it. And vulnerability, he feels very vulnerable. So insecurity and vulnerability come out. And that's what we take on. We take on this insecurity and vulnerability. And you can't do much with I or me. So what do we do with it? We add to it events, experiences and conditioning. Things have happened to us right down to I am Bob, I'm an Australian, I'm a good fella, or I'm not so good. I have a bad childhood, or I was abused, or told not good enough. I've got low self-esteem, or I'm fearful, or I'm anxious, or depressed. All these concepts are added onto that substance. You can't do much with I or me on its own, just a bare word. But to give it some substance, we've added all these concepts onto it. Now we've got this conceptual image of what Bob is. He's a young fellow that's had a bad childhood, he's unhappy, or he's depressed, or I'm sad, or people don't like me, I'm fearful, I'm anxious. That's the conceptual image we've got about ourselves, isn't that right? And with that conceptual image comes the insecurity and vulnerability, the unhappiness, the sadness, and the depression. So, me, or word, is the cause of all my psychological suffering. For it's only me that can be unhappy. It's only me that can be fearful. It's only me that can be depressed or angry. Me is the cause of all my psychological problems, and the effects are the anxiety, the stress, the depression, the unhappiness, the fear, the anxiety, the stress, the guilt, the shame, and remorse and guilt. All these things are the effects of the cause, me. Now, isn't that what so-called karma is? Cause and effect? But what happened if you asked yourself the simple question, if I'm not relating to a cause, can there be an effect? Or can there? You don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work that out. If I'm not relating to a cause, where can the effect lodge? There's nowhere for it to lodge unless it's got a seeming static or substantial thing to relate to. And that seemingly static or substantial thing is this concept of me. I, me, Bob, the Australian, the good fella, the self-centre, because that word's become the self-centre, the ego, or the reference point. Three aspects of the one, three different labels we put on the one thing. A self-centre, we believe that's me as a self-centre, and it's a reference point which everything is referred to, and the ego is the cause. They tell you that the ego is the cause of all your problems. And they tell you you've got to kill this ego, you've got to stamp on it, you've got to get rid of it. You know, you've got to beat yourself up with the word and get rid of this ego before you can understand spirituality or anything at all. Not believe, recognising the word's not the real, and it's a total fiction anyway. So me is the cause. And the effects of that are my anxiety, my fear, my anxiety, they're the stress. So, wouldn't it be imperative, we say here that ego is a fiction. It doesn't exist. It's never existed. It never could exist. It's only the belief that's gone on where our parents reinforced it for us, our schools reinforced it when we went to, our peers, when we start reinforcing it ourselves. Day in, day out. I'm so-and-so, and I've got to do this, and I'm fearful. And no wonder we're always in this psychological problem. And how does it work? Well, you see how it works in your body when it comes up. Everybody is seeing right now. And everybody is hearing right now. Now, the thought I see comes up, and it's no longer a pure thought. The seeing's happening when the thought I see comes up, and that thought I see is what we're referring to as this conceptual image. It's me, Bob the Australian, now thinks of seeing. And something comes up, and I like it. How do you know? Well, I've had this before, and we like the good things, and we don't want the good things to go. We want everything to be good, and be happy all the time, not realising that everything is transient. It's constantly changing. There's nothing static in this manifestation. You mightn't realise that, but realise that body you're sitting in this room with right now is not the same body you walked into the room with. Not the same body as you're sitting there. It's constantly changing. There are thousands of cells dying in it right now and being replaced. And each cell that's replacing it from the food you're eating and everyone else knows what to do, because the liver cell will never become a kidney cell, a heart cell will never become a skin cell, a brain cell will never become a heart cell or a kidney cell or anything else. Each cell has a unique thing expressing to do. So it's transient. So the good things, no matter how much you love them, or how much you keep them there, or what to hang on to, they're going to change. They're going to die, they're going to move on, they're going to leave you, or you're going to forget them, but they'll certainly change. And we don't want the good things to go. We want it to be there all the time. Because doesn't Shakespeare a couple of hundred years ago, 300 or 400 years ago, whatever it was, tell you that? Nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And doesn't Sarkar tell you the same thing? When he says nothing can trouble you excepting your own imagination. Nothing at all can trouble you excepting your own imagination. Break that word imagination down to image in. imagine. Look in that mirror at the end of the room there. What do you see? You see reflections or images in the mirror. Now you can't say those images are not there, but go up to the mirror and try and grab an image out of the mirror. You won't grab the image because it's not something solid and substantial. It's only an appearance. That art on the wall, it's images and the paints on the wall. They're not the actual thing. So nothing can trouble you except your own imagination. And we imagine this and we imagine that and take it to be real and beat ourselves up with the word. So if something comes up and I like it, we don't, but it's certainly going to change. We don't want it to change. So what do? We try to keep it there. How do we try to keep it there? We resist it. We try our hardest to hang on to it, for it to be there. And don't you realise that any resistance you are in conflict. Conflict. And another word for conflict would make you anxious, fearful, or unhappy, or depressed, or guilty, or whatever. Makes you uneasiness. Another word for that is disease. So you are in resistance, conflict, and disease. Something comes up and I don't like it. I had this before. This is bad. I don't want to be like this. I want to get rid of it. So what do? I resist it again. Again resistance, again conflict, and again disease. That's what my life consists of. Constant concept of belief and resistance, conflict and disease. And why we won't say to him, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say and everything you think and everything you do is for yourself. And he says there isn't one. I'll show you the way. So we're in this resistance constantly. Got this conceptual image. So I told you about it, don't I? So wouldn't it be imperative that we had a look and seen if this ego that I'm relating to, all our problems are problems of relationship. Not just a male-female relationship, but relation to everything, relativity. Because relativity or relationship is dualism. And we're talking about non-duality. Absolutely no duality in non-duality. Never was, never will be. It's only created by this imagination and conceptualizing. No, non-conceptual awareness. So I'm forgetting where I'm at.
So seeing what's happening. Seeing through the eye.
Yeah. So have a look, as I say, investigate. You're seeing through the eye. And ask yourself this, does my eye tell me I see? Well, investigate and have a look at to see if this is real. My eye's not saying, look at this Bob, look at that Bob, that's good or that's bad, can yours? And you realise your eye can't say anything at all, not a thing. But it is the instrument through which the seeing is happening. And that instrument is translated by the thought, I see. The same with the hearing. Hearing's happening through the ears, but the ear's not saying, listen to this Bob, or that's a good sound, or I like that song. Can't say anything at all. But it's the instrument through which the hearing's happening. It's translated by the thought, I hear. So the seeing and the hearing are happening, by the thought I see and I hear comes up in translation. Now have a look at that. See, it's no longer a pure seeing and hearing, because that thought I see is not a pure thought. It's no longer pure seeing, but it's me, Bob, thinks it's the capacity of seeing, the conceptual image. And it's me, Bob, that has the capacity, thinks it has the capacity of hearing, a conceptual image. But can the thought I see actually see? See that conceptual image can see. Shut your eyes and look around the room and see what things you can see in the room without a thought, with the eyes closed. You realise you can't see anything at all except the darkness behind your lids. You realise that the thought I see can't see. This egoic thought, this conceptual image can't see. Put your hands over your ears and block your hearing off. See what you can hear with the thought. And you realise the thought I hear can't hear. Now, the thought I am aware. Are you unaware right now? No, you can't say I'm unaware. Well, if you say I'm aware, you must recognise I couldn't be. If I wasn't aware, I wouldn't be able to say it. So the thought I am aware is not the awareness. And we think we choose our thoughts. Why would you have an unhappy, miserable or angry or fearful thought if you could choose them? You choose to be that way? I don't. Do you? And you realise the thought I choose cannot choose. Choices are made, but there's no choice maker. So this thought up entity can't see, can't hear, can't be aware, can't do anything at all. There's no power to do any of those things. Now take the life essence out of that body. What would happen? You'd have a corpse. Now the corpse has got eyes, and before it starts to rot, it's still got the eyes in it, got the ears, got the heart, the lung, the organs. But they're not a bit of good to it without that life essence. Just the same as a computer's got all that information to it. What information you can get out of the computer if the power's not turned on? Can't get anything at all. So what are you going to get out of this body if that life essence is not there? Not a damn thing. So then you might understand, like the computer is the instrument, which all that information comes from, the body-mind is the instrument, which the life essence is suffusing, patterning, expressing through, and enabling all these things to happen. So then you can understand and know what Christ said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. He wasn't talking about himself, the personal entity. He was talking about that sense of presence, which is the way, which is the truth, which is the life. And as Sarkata says, that sense of presence, that I amness, he says, stay with the I amness. People think he's talking about staying with the thought I am, but he's not talking about staying with the thought, he's staying with that sense of presence. That sense of presence translates as the thought I am. You're knowing that you're higher, how would you express it? How would you tell me? You'd have to say, I am. But we don't leave it that pure I amness, we leave it, add on to it all these concepts. And we load ourselves down with the concepts and beliefs, the separation with all the fears and anxieties. All that psychological suffering doesn't have to be there. Because there's nothing in this manifestation can live without energy. And what's keeping this egoic image alive, the thoughts, the concepts and ideas, is the energy of belief. You believe you are this person. You believe you are the separate entity. You believe this separate entity, this individual, but you're not. You are the totality. So the next time you say, I am that, not I am that, I am this person, I am the total, I am the being, I am the knowing, I am the loving to be. I am that pure essence, I am that pure intelligence energy. Keep recognising that and coming back to that. And not if the what ifs, the whys, the hows and the whens, the thoughts come up that keep it going and seemingly obscure it, discard them. It's not a matter of becoming something. We think we've got to become realised or liberated. You can't become it. Becoming is not being. Becoming is a movement away from being. But you can't negate your being. Be what you are, what you've always been, what you always will be. So that's basically what I point to. I ask you to look along those lines. And you're open to ask whatever questions you like, or tell us where you're at, where your version is. And other people will be there a while, might express a little bit different to me, but they'll be telling you the same thing. You have to wait for that. And as the Buddha told it a couple of thousand years ago, he called it a cognizing emptiness. An emptiness with the capacity of cognizing, and another word for cognizing of knowing. And he called it a cognizing emptiness, and he made the statement that emptiness is form. It's emptiness that's forming all these things. And we think we are the cognizing emptiness, but we're not. It's the emptiness that's doing the cognizing and using this pattern, shape and form to express through. And you are the cognizing emptiness. And he made the statement that emptiness is form, and he pointed out that form can be nothing other than the emptiness. So all these forms, you and me and everything else, are still that emptiness that's patterning, shaping, forming and appearing as appearing as the form rather than recognise our cognizing emptiness. So the pattern, shape and form can be very useful, because what could you express or do or think without the pattern, shape and form, without the body-mind? So it has its usefulness, but it's self-destructive. The mind can be very useful, but it's self-destructive when it uses me and tells me I'm not good enough, or I'm fearful, or I'm unhappy, or I'm anxious. And the worst one I put upon myself, well, after all, I'm only human. Take that humanness off and be the beingness. So away you go, get into it. If something's brought you here to have a look at this, ask questions and investigate and really have a look. Don't walk away and say it's a lot of crap. You can walk away and do that, and there are people who've done that here, come back 20 or 30 years later and look at it. And there's a lot that don't come back, and they still stay in the misery of belief till the end of their life.
Even if there is anything that you heard that you really, that resonated, if you voice it in your own words, somebody else might hear it again, and it might be helpful for them. So if there is even one thing, he dropped you like 50 different pointers. If there's even one that actually really penetrated, it really sounds true, and you feed it back, someone might hear it. That would happen to me and many others. That rephrasing some of Bob's pointers would completely open up in a different light. It's not only about sharing, but also about helping others. You didn't tell us about time, Bob. This is a good one.
Yes, I did. I mentioned
Time? No, you didn't say the past.
yes. If I said you recall the past and bring that, I said no. You weren't listening.
Bob,
Question.
during the week I was getting like lost in the idea of other, like just seeing all these other forms in front of me.
Yeah,
There was individuality,
yeah,
and that I'm individual, and I get lost in that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what can all be broken down to? All this manifestation can be broken down into pure energy. The form is emptiness, vibrating patterns of form. So when you see everything as that emptiness and see yourself as that also, and you've got the idea that there's something, what are you lost in? You're lost in the word, aren't you? The concept, the belief that there's something there. Take the concept or label off. Without a word, what can you say about it?
There's nothing there.
No, but you can't. You just haven't stopped breathing. You haven't stopped heart breathing and all this. Haven't stopped living. You're still living, but we're living without the word. And that, even if it's just for a brief second, you get a taste of your true nature. And then And when you go back and want to remember and realise for the first couple of years of your life, you didn't have any words, yet you were living quite well without that. You know? So you are that beingness. And with the beingness there's a knowing, isn't there? And the knowing is the activity.
And the sea still appears to be blue,
Yes.
but you know the truth.
I mean, there's a couple of analogies we use in everyday life. Years ago when people stood on the shore and looked out where the sea and the sky met, a few centuries ago, they were told, go out there, don't go out there, you'll fall off the edge of the earth. People believe that. Who would believe it today? Nobody would believe it today because it's been investigated. As we say, the false can't stand up to investigation. You still look out there and it still looks like when the sun going down, it seems to drop over the edge of the earth and disappear. You know? But it hasn't gone off the edge of the earth. The earth is round, we didn't realise it. And go down to the ocean, I'll say, get me a bucket of blue water out of the sea. What will you say to me? You'll say, don't be an idiot. Because you know the water's not blue. Pull the bucket out, it's not blue. But you turn away from it, it still appears to be blue. Then you can admire it, say what a beautiful blue sea it is. But you're not taken in by it anymore. So you know the truth about it. And you don't believe. Go up 30,000 feet in the plane, there's seeming a blue canopy in the sky there, there's seeming a canopy over the sky, but where's the blueness in the plane at 30,000 feet? No blueness there. It's always further out. This room is space. Where's the blueness in this space here? There's not. The water in the mirage, driving along the road, you see a pool of water on the road, you drive up to it, it disappears. When was there ever any water in the road? Never was. A rainbow, you go outside a day, you see a rainbow in the sky, colours. Where are those colours? When you investigate and see, if the sun shining through a mist, and the mist reflects on the blue background of the sky beyond it, and forms colours. There's no colour there at all. I've got a crystal sitting in this window over here, and the afternoon sun comes through and strikes through that crystal. It breaks up into colours on the wall. I try to go to the wall and try and grab a colour out of it. What'll I grab? Nothing but the wall. Go back and have a look at the crystal and see what colours are in that reflect. There's no colours in it. But the way the sun's reflecting through it and the different prisms on it, it forms colours. So you recognise all these things. Another one they talk about is a snake and a rope. A fellow steps out of his cabin in a dark, wet night and he stands on a piece of wet rope. And it rolls under his feet and immediately thinks he's trodden on a serpent, a snake. Immediately his hair stands on end, the goose pimples come up and the fear and the trembling started. You can imagine the serpent biting him. Somebody comes out and shines a torch. Look, it's only a piece of wet rope. Immediately there's a sense of relief. But the fear and the trembling don't die down straight away because they have become physical. And it takes if it's physical a little bit longer to die down before going back to the stillness again, you know. It takes a little bit longer. And that's the same with us. When the thoughts, feelings, emotions come up, and we call those become feelings and emotions, it takes the feelings and emotions a bit longer to die down. Not realising they're all caused by the thought or the word, they're not real. But you can be free of the belief of all these things just with a little bit of a looking into it and seeing for yourself. Another one is the sun in the sky. Go outside on a cloudy day, would you say the sun's not in the sky? You know the sun's not always in the sky. It's seemingly obscured by the cloud. Now the vastness of the sun is so great, do you think a cloud's going to obscure it? In this section or another section of the world, it might be seemingly obscuring it. Over the totality, there'll be lots of space there, there'll be a lot of clarity there. But where the cloud's functioning over it, but investigate that and ask yourself, what forms the cloud? When you investigate, you realise that the sun forms a cloud. Now the sun doesn't know anything about the cloud. It's not out to form a cloud or do anything about it. It doesn't know. All the sun does is shine. In that self-shiningness, in the radiance of the sun, what does it do? It evaporates water. The water rises as essence, it's steam, less than steam, with water vapour. And it cools down and forms a cloud. Forms a cloud which obscures the sun. So it's the shining of the self-shining of the sun has formed a cloud which seemingly obscured it. Now the sun will continue to shine and might cool it down, and the condensation of the cloud will come down as rain. Then it'll come down as ice, hail or ice, and it become, from that subtle no thing, this is formed into something solid. Just like the spirit, like the thinking. Spirit is essence, become a bit more substantial, become word or thought, concept. Become feeling, and then the feeling will come emotion. It's all caused by that life essence, the thoughts come up, the vibrating energy.
So all your pointers, Bob, are to show us who we're not.
What?
So all your pointers are basically showing us who we're not. So the individual, the me, the self-centre, all these wonderful pointers are...
Yeah. So what does that show you? It means that trying to get something is useless. What you've got to do is discard. Get rid of all the false concepts and erroneous beliefs we've taken on. Discard it because you're already that.
So what's actually being said is that this me entity that we take ourselves to be is completely imagined. Now, if that's not seen, or if that's not known, what must come up is, yeah, but, or really? What about? And if none of those questions are challenged, you'll stay stuck. They have to be challenged.
Including the idea that you're an individual.
Starting from it.
Yeah.
Starting from it.
Yeah. A self-centre and individual, ego, they're all the same thing with only a different label.
That's why all those pointers were just thrown out there from Bob. The water looks blue. When you look at it, see it looks blue. And the sky looks blue. But when you investigate it, you actually know it's not. So what's being said here is the person that we take ourselves to be, this person that we believe ourselves to be, is completely imagined. It's not a real thing, has no substance. So that's what we're asked to investigate. So if you're hearing, this my me is imagined, and you can't see that, or haven't realised that, and what comes up for you is, yeah, but challenge that. In this forum, challenge that. Don't be shy. You have to confront it at some point.
Also, what Bob said, it is imagined only because we know language. So it is really the science would call it a narrative self that comes from default mode network in the brain. So it is basically just a language self. So Bob has this beautiful pointer, what's wrong with right now if I don't think about it? Or who am I if I don't think about it? Or is there a separate me unless I take the thought? So having a thought of being separate me, of being the body, or being the little human in the head, or monkey, or whatever, individual is just a thought. Without the thought, there is no separation. It's still, things appear to be separate, like there is no two snowflakes, or no two clouds, or no two people that are not unique. Because that intelligence doesn't repeat itself. There is no blade of grass that would be the same as the other. It's infinitely creative and infinitely beautiful in that creativity. But and we are, as patterns, also unique pattern. And within one pattern, there is 1,000 little selves, the unique patterns too. but it's only the language that tells me that I'm separate. It's only the language, the words, the imagery, like imagine, Terry says, imagined, the imagination. And I can have image only because I have symbol representation, which is the word. So the whole idea of being individual separate comes from learning language, having capacity of representing symbols with the images, and creating the concept cluster of images instead of just seeing the spontaneity of action, just seeing how the seeing spontaneously happens. The I don't do the seeing. The me can't switch off the seeing. It's automatic. When the eyes are open, the seeing is there. And the same with thinking. The thinking is just as automatic as the hearing. The hearing traffic outside, hearing the voice inside. It's just the automatic functioning. So everything happens automatically. Hair grow, the digestion happens, the thinking happens, the seeing happens. And now the language or the imagination tells me, no, there is a little controller there in the head. And that controller makes decisions, choices, it sees, it digests, it grows. Now, maybe we can say, okay, I'm not growing my hair, something else does it, life does it. But I'm thinking. Well, really, if we see that, if I am actually thinking, can I change, like Bob says, can I change my thinking? Can I start only thinking positive thoughts? And there is a beautiful movement of positive thinking, which strongly believed into existence may even work for a fraction of time, but it will backfire, because in a moment, and especially in a moment when the conscious awareness is not here and the alertness is not here, or when we're dreaming at night, all the other stuff will spontaneously come up. Just like the nature has seasons, just like day and night is coming, and the summer and winter is coming. So just relieving ourselves from the burden of responsibility for everything that is spontaneously happening brings up the naturalness and lightness and spontaneity, and brings up the heart. From this point, if I stop relating everything, oh, I'm responsible for my negative thoughts, I have to punish myself. If I don't really listen to that commentary and I don't take credit for anything that happens, I have time for other things. I have time to see people, to hear, to taste, to touch, to smell, to respond from the space of peace. And that's a much better place to respond from. So it is really about, like Terry said, challenging the idea of being separate to the point in which you just see if it could be true that it all really happens spontaneously, just like seeing, hearing. Could that be true? Because if it could be true, let's see. What is my next thought gonna be? Can I choose it? Well, even the idea of choosing thought, where did it come from? Did I really choose it? No, and then suddenly it occurs that, oh my gosh, everything automatically runs, just like the wind is blowing. Nobody does blow the wind, or nobody does the rain. Oh yes, sun forms the cloud, but also 1,000 other things form the cloud, the water and everything else. So it's really just self-organizing universe waving the whole surface, and it's just expressing itself through every pattern without any personal entity. Or one could say, okay, God does everything. But then I'm not separate from God. Then I have to be that God. It doesn't really sit that label with me, but with some people it does. So just first stripping off the idea of doership, and then seeing how much can actually happen by itself. And then soon you will realize that, oh my gosh, all of it, 100%. 100% is just natural response of this body with the conditioning, whatever it gets, whatever habit patterns it gets, it will respond to whatever show up. And I don't know what the response is going to be. That may be something that I've inherited after my grandmother, or saw when I was in the womb, or whatever. It's just some response. But it's not really my choice. It's spontaneous. And that brings a sense of relief and sense of joy. Now the life can be witnessed from that space of complete neutrality, which is not even accepting, because nothing needs to be accepted. It's already there. So this is a space in which you find out that you are really nothing. So how would you object to anything? There is no one to object. So there is no resistance towards life because there is no one who would disagree with whatever shows up. And it doesn't mean that bad or painful things won't show up. All shows up. But there is no one to actually fight with it. And if the fighting comes up, that's just a pattern. That's just a habit. Even animals resist pain. So that's habitual resistance may come up, but that's not me. That's not mine.
Yeah, the problem arises with the naming and claiming, you know, so we have a habit of taking ownership of everything. So the problem arises with the naming and claiming. And when you see that, it's a travelling lighter, you know, you're watching the action figure, you're watching the hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. Not that there's anyone to watch it, there's just the, you know, awareness. And it's just a travelling lighter. And like you said, you're more in your heart, less in your head, you know. And every time an identification with this alleged me or alleged individual or alleged separate entity comes up, it's just a habit.
Yeah.
It's the biggest habit of all. You know, but you know you're not that. So you go, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
And off you go with whatever other spontaneous action is happening next.
And that's beautiful what you just said, because the moment you actually look at that action figure and you see that individual doing, responding, thinking, you know, and that is impersonal. When you do that, your own body mind as impersonal, as something really interesting showing up in the field of awareness that you are, you can't help but, you know, begin to actually admire it. Like, wow, it's instead of judgment and self-hatred and all that resistance or resentment towards, oh, why am I not smarter, slimmer, younger, whatever? Now it comes the curiosity, and it comes openness, and it comes, one could say, in a lack of better words, acceptance. But it's not even acceptance, because
it's non-resistance.
Non-resistance, yeah. And even the idea of loving oneself, like, who is there to love who? But at the same time, you just see something, like you see a beautiful rose, or you see the little baby laughing, or something, you see the beauty outside, and you can't help but love it. In the same way, you can see yourself as impersonal pattern, unique pattern that is quite amazing, is quite mind-blowing. When you think of how this one came to existence, and how this one came to express, and how this one is capable of communicating, speaking, and it is not me, it is a pattern. So now the natural sort of appreciation for the appearance comes up. And it is all just to be appreciated. That's the only way the awareness can actually love itself, through the appearance, through the costume that it gave itself, because the awareness doesn't have any eyes or ears or anything. It can't experience itself because it's beyond any qualities, and it doesn't. So basically, it just dreams itself a costume.
So in the book I Am That, which was written by people like us sitting around listening to Nisargadatta, it says in its unicity, it can't know itself.
Yeah.
So it manifests as phenomenon.
Exactly. And that's what Bob was saying. The Buddhists call it emptiness is form. So, and Bob has this beautiful, I love that one, when you say it, the one essence forming, shaping, vibrating, patterning into everything. It's just like the same way, like we have the wave, and certain frequency of the wave becomes sound. Other frequency of the wave become light. Yet another frequency of the wave become microwave or X-ray or whatever. And the spectrum is infinite. We can only capture certain part of that spectrum, but that spectrum forms everything, including the atoms, the subatomic particles vibrating, dancing into a solid matter. And this is again what we perceive as solid matter. So this is how that one life brings about infinite diversity of mind-blowing, beautiful shapes and forms and patterns. One essence, but yeah, we can even say it's not even essence. Essence is like energy, or it's nothing.
Kat, I was going to say, a lot of the thoughts that come up seem quite personalised.
Yes.
The key for me was seeing that even though they're trying to have a personal reference, there's no actual person there. But they seem personal because they've got a personal flavour to them, but there's no actual underlying. Yeah.
Exactly.
The other thing that really helped me is I had a big assumption because there's thoughts, there's a thinker there. But the assumption was there's thoughts, therefore there's a thinker.
Yeah.
And that helped. That was a penny that dropped as well. But that was some of the challenges I had with this.
Beautiful.
Comment on that.
Yeah, they're profound insights. Those are insights that take you all the way home. Because if there's
To the
thinking,
place you never left.
place you never left, of course. If there's thinking but no thinker, there is no you. And yes, the patterns seem personal. That's a habit. Relating, if for whatever 10, 20, 40, 50, 60 years we relate everything to that imagined self-center, then that becomes the most predominant habit, just having it personal. That what keeps the whole structure together, the habit. But once questioned, it will still look like sea will still appear blue. It will still look as if there is an individual, or it may still appear that there is someone taking decision, but you can't make yourself believe in that again. You just can't. Therefore, you can never feel guilty, or you can never feel that anyone else is guilty of anything, because nobody is a doer. Even a criminal is not a doer, it's a product of the environment in which it grew up. And it didn't choose the environment. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be locked up, of course. It doesn't mean it shouldn't be isolated. That's also the universe creating the system which isolates dangerous individuals. But I can't hate them anymore. I can't blame them anymore, because they're innocent victims of the whole universe playing out. They're not even victims because they're not there. But yeah, that may appear to be so, and it feels this way.
And I think it's great when you see who you're not, and patterns arise. And in the days when you really believed you were separate, you would be dissipating your energy, referring to that alleged separate self. And then when you see who you're not, there was a gradual recognition that, or a cognizing of the actual emptiness, and so the emptiness became more attractive than the story. And so Bob used to say to me, be warm towards it, love it, give it a little wink and a nudge. I really understand what that means now, because it becomes so disinterested in the story. It becomes so disinterested in relating to a phantom. There is a disinterest here in relating to a story. I was at a funeral yesterday, and this dear friend of mine passed away who was totally in her story about herself, and everybody, who were close to her were also in that story about her, and, their relationship to her. And it's sad, that people are trapped in a story, an image they have about themselves, and dissipate their energy and get sick and, leave earlier than they should, because they've dissipated that pattern of energy by relating to a false centre. And it was just such a freeing thing to be there, because it was just really obvious that and kind of there was a sad feeling present, because you think the life would have been so much more enjoyable had they realised who they were not.
The suffering, the psychological suffering, that is what Bob is constantly pointing is unnecessary. The pain in life comes up. Of course, we can see animals, they don't have sense of separate self because they don't have the default mode network in the brain, so they don't have narrative self. The animal doesn't comment every step it takes. Oh, I'm going to go to the left. No, it just doesn't do it. We do it because of the habit. And from that narrative, from that commentary comes the suffering, because that very same commentary will tell me that I'm not smart enough, tall enough, young enough, whatever. And it's going to tell me also the story about what other people think about me. And if they don't like me or don't accept me, I'm going to be rejected and I'm going to be cast away from the society. But because that narrative self is the only problem that we ever have, it's easy to see that I am not the voice in my head, because I'm hearing it. I'm the space in which that voice is being acknowledged, is being known of. Also, I'm aware of it. But the pain is inevitable. Animals break their legs, they get wounded. People break legs, they get wounded. They get different diseases. There are challenges in life. But now, if the wounding happens or the pain happens, it can go into a place, into a space of curiosity, of the sensations coming up with it, or the contractions in the body coming up with it, or the breathing change coming up with it, but without the commentary, without the resistance. When Bob was saying, "Oh, I don't want it to be there." This commentary that wants what is not and doesn't want what is. It's like a hopeless fight with reality. Whatever is already there. Whether I want it or I don't want it, it is there. So if I'm going to fight with that, because I had an accident and there was a lot of pain, so I can relate to this story. If I would be fighting, and I remember because I had very similar accident on the motorbike 10 years ago, and at this time of my life, I did not have the understanding that I do have now. And it was completely different experience in those two very similar wounds. How it goes with the habitual resistance, because habitually we are wired to have more pleasure and less pain. That's why, at least me, I wanted to chase enlightenment all my life, because it was unity consciousness, endless orgasm and pleasure that was supposed to come with it, which is not the case. The truth has nothing to do with experiences that have beginning and an end. Experiences are fantastic, but the truth is so much more simple and so much more basic than the pleasurable experiences. And at the same time, the resistance that comes from narrative self, from not wanting what is totally avoidable. When that narrative self is seen for what it is, the conceptual image, the image made of past memories and experiences and conditioning, when this one is seen through, even if it appears still to be in the picture, is laughable. It's laughable, and very soon it stops rising its head. It just stops commenting. And what Jane was saying, the love for the truth instead, this longing even longing for the unity consciousness, which is an experience, which has beginning and an end. Because if anyone was to stay in the unity consciousness and being incapable of experiencing any boundaries, then obviously there would be no functionality. They wouldn't be able to find the bathroom or anything. So those experiences are coming and going. But even focusing on the love for that being or love for that truth it grows much more attractive to the story, what Jane was saying, story about poor me. And that shifts the focus, and that brings so much more lightness.
Nobody got any questions? Well,
I just want to say, in order to defeat the question rise in my mind, I just watch the questions. Yeah.
Good.
Because there is nothing to know or to find out. It's too close to us to know about it or search about it.
That's,
There's nothing to see.
Mm-hmm.
didn't Tennyson tell you that? Closer than your breathing, nearer than your hands and feet.
I think you had a question, did you? Oh, no.
Anybody who's not existing right now? Well, confirm it to yourself. No, I'm existing. Anyone who's not conscious? No, I'm conscious. Anyone who's not happy to be? So you already are that. You're going to forget it? And that's what Sayagadatta's teacher, Siddha Reshwar, says. Whatever can be remembered or forgotten is not you.
Mm.
Oh, I shouldn't worry about that at all then.
No, not at all. That's exactly right.
This
That's
morning,
exactly right. Yeah.
this morning I went 7 stations further. That was a bit late. So I shouldn't be worried about that. I lost my memory.
No,
No.
no.
Oh, that makes us feel terrible. But it's a bit of relief saying that it's not me.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Who is it then? Somebody got in
Life.
the way?
not
The
not
way
not
of my
anybody.
mind.
It's the whole world. Look, if you miss the station, there was 1,000 little things that contributed to it. Maybe the fact that you didn't have a strong breakfast or something. I don't know. Maybe sometimes there is a little bit of a fog in the brain if you, let's say, eat sugar or something. It may be one of the factors. Another factor, maybe something attracted your attention in the train, and you just got, like 1,000 little things. The whole world dancing into the point in which you lose attention in a vital moment and you go somewhere else. And now what happens? You're gonna rehearse the worry. Okay, now I'm gonna just worry about it for 20 minutes. So tomorrow I will have a strong habit for worry, and I will look for another thing to worry, and I'll become a real warrior.
On the way back, I was just definitely pay attention to every single station.
Oh, good.
Beautiful.
There you go.
Yeah.
And when you said last time, maybe it's missing magnesium, something from my body, some vitamins or minerals, what we call it. I just read about this lady monk who ate only potatoes and turnips for 12 years. And it seems like she was saner and healthier and more enlightened than anybody. So why do we so worry about how many calories, what should we eat and what shouldn't we eat? Because clear, she seems like one of the most wise women in the world. She went to teach the world after those years. So
Beautiful.
we shouldn't worry so much how many calories, I think.
Definitely great not to worry less.
I was taught seriously about this potatoes and turnips, and it also showed on the picture. There wasn't, anything that made up by her mind. It was for real. Just had a little pattern, probably the size of this room, with I think potatoes and turnips. They must be so from now on, we know what to eat.
Bob was actually on the diet for 6 weeks, couple of times, just grapes and nothing else. And believe me, till today, he loves his grapes. He didn't get sick of them. There are a lot of, ultimately, the world is dreamed up. So perhaps, there is a level of understanding in which you don't eat and you still survive. Who knows? But it's not good for everyone,
But she was young. She was
yeah,
young.
there
She
you
was
go.
in her 20s when she went out in Tibet
Yeah.
on the plateau really high somewhere and was meditating she planned it for 12 years and it seems like she did.
There is that thing here, Sadhguru, the inner guide. If you are resonating with this one, then you may find yourself following it. If you resonate with something else, you may find yourself following something else. And it's really to saying, oh, it is good for everyone. We don't know, because everyone is unique pattern, No two snowflakes are the same.
What we believe. It's all based on belief.
Yes.
What Bob says, I love what Bob says about belief. Can you repeat that, Bob?
Yeah.
That little thing you say about belief.
Belief is an unquestioned acceptance in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. Take care. Take care. Yep. So time's caught up with us.
Yes, beliefs can be questioned. You can be free from the beliefs, so you can find yourself following one or the other, and without taking credit for it. It's just all resonance will guide you where you need to be.
Believe.
But
Who can make
yeah,
a really good belief?
but the key thing you've already noticed. Don't worry. Life will look after itself, you know, like if there is a strong belief that brings you to eat certain things or do certain things, you may say, okay, the body is following it, but it's none of your problem. You don't have to worry about that. Because worrying only creates the habit of more worrying.
Yes.
It's basically
It
like,
grows.
yeah, like, you know, like smoking cigarettes, you practice and you get addicted. Now the worries, you practice, you get addicted.
Even though we worry more to to quit.
Yeah.
Still like a someone trying to follow something.
Yes,
And
yes.
still a someone trying to do something
Yeah.
as opposed to, so it's just another, it doesn't matter whether it's potatoes and turnips or sitting under a Bodhi tree that everybody thought must be how you get enlightened because it's what the result was for the Buddha. It doesn't mean anybody else is going to get that from sitting cross-legged under a tree.
Exactly.
Because it's not that it's the visual thing and it's the phenomena that's being identified.
Yeah. Tony, can you wait a little bit? Because China, just 5 minutes. So she finishes the sentence because it's hard to hear. And this is important what you said. Yes, exactly. This is true. The moment
So
the
it's
action
still the
follows,
seeker looking,
yeah,
and it's
for
still the
solution.
someone trying
to fix
to
something,
find
get
something,
something,
and get something to make
Yeah.
themselves into something that's better or happier or more enlightened.
Absolutely.
So it's no different. It's
No,
just,
yeah.
it's not the way.
It's totally not the way. And at the same time, the same action can happen without any credit taken.
Without any
This-
someone.
Exactly. It's just a flow. Just the body flows towards this and that, and
Yeah.
without any story about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a very good distinction, an important one.
Because you have to have a someone to have a belief even.
Yes. Yes.
So for me, just being really in this ocean of love for a year and a half, was it just random happening? I
No.
didn't plan nothing.
Again, it was the whole universe. It wasn't your action. It was
Wasn't
everything. It was every single frequency, every single setup. Because there is no separation, the world is all connected. It's like one girl came here once and showed us, put the blanket over her hands and just pull out the part of the pieces of the blanket, and the whole of it moved. So the whole universe created that movement and that blissful state in this particular pattern and in many others in the world. It wasn't you that you did something good or you did something bad. It's the consciousness or awareness that you are. So ultimately, you are that space of love, that field, open field of love and acceptance. But now you think you're not. You knew it for 1.5 years, and now you created yourself a little costume and you believe, no, I'm this now. I was the expansion, but now I'm not. So question the belief that you are not it. Because it doesn't seem this way, I know, but it really is that one belief that keeps you from experiencing that being field of love again. Just that one belief.
And
You
that's
one
very
thought
strong.
away.
I know I have a weakness.
I know it's strong and it's convincing and it feels like absolutely real. That's the point.
And it separates me from it.
Yes.
I know.
That's how wonderfully creative and effective that beautiful field of aliveness is. That is who you are. When it creates something, it looks so real. Look in the mirror, it looks like the body is so real, so solid, so substantial, so separate. That's the point. Same in the dream. When you dream at night, trees look real. You can climb them, but they're not.
Wow.
And thoughts are not real either. Just keep looking into it. See who you are when you don't think that thought. who you are when you have no thoughts in the head. Are you separate? Are you
Yes, yes, I am separate.
That's
now.
the thought.
I miss so
That's,
much.
yeah,
that-
that's a thought. But if you move that thought aside and see what you know about yourself without any thought.
Nothing, I don't know nothing without any thought.
Exactly, exactly. And that nothing, when you stay with that nothing, it will start blossoming into love. That very nothing, because for the head it is nothing. But for the core of your being, it is love, it is a blissful aliveness. If you look in the head, there's just nothing. But stay with it. It will slowly drop into the core of your being, and it won't be nothing anymore. It will be a lot. You know, you remember.
Oh, I want to remember that. I still feel something
Yes.
so interesting, that so comfortable somewhere around my body.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
not far.
Feel it.
Not far.
It's like I want to wrap it around me again.
Yeah.
It's almost.
Okay, I'm gonna just Bob say goodbye, and I'm gonna wrap it up because it's, people are rushing to go.